we just got to observe what I think was one of the best parades in the history of the city. And the good news, especially if you're somebody like me, if you believe the same way that I believe, this could just be a precursor of what is to come over the next year, hell, maybe the next few years, because that's how good this Eagles team was. And that's how good this Eagles team, I think, is going to end up being now. There are some critical free agents, which we'll probably talk about next week, but I want to get to some of the highlights from today's parade. For those of you who maybe were at work, weren't able to see it, for those of you who may have missed it, we're going to get into some of the highlights. There were things going on from the very early morning all the way up through the parade itself at the Art Steps. So I want to get to as much as humanly possible, and we'll get out to the comments here in a little bit to find out what people liked the most about the Super Bowl parade today and about all the fallout, because, again, there were a ton of things going on down in Philly. In fact, it started really early. John Kincaid from over at 97.5 The Fanatic had this video up on Twitter, and this was at like 7:30 this morning, just to give people a little taste of what it looked like in Philadelphia. This was at 7:30. You had people lining up. The streets were lined up. I saw yesterday, it was on Fox 29. I saw the people who were getting themselves set up at the Art Museum steps at 3 p.m. the day before the parade. That's how committed people were to getting out there and to getting themselves set up and to getting the best seat in the house. Oh, but there were plenty of seats in this house. It was absolute pandemonium. I'm going to try to, we'll see if we can get rid of the music here, but DMX was blasting this morning. Elliott Shore Parks put this out, I think around the same time, sometime around 7:30, but this absolute sea of humanity down near the Art Museum. People were ready. And the wild thing is, like, if you think about it, if you're honest with yourself, like, I expected this after Super Bowl 52. I expected a city that hadn't been to a Super Bowl, hadn't won a Super Bowl. I'd expect this kind of celebration. But man, people were all in on the celebration today. Again, not to an extent that I guess some might have been surprised by, but man, it blew my mind. In all honesty, it blew my mind. Now, I thought one of the coolest things, and there are a million images of this going around, at a Love Park, you got the Love statue, and Jordan Brand added on to it. They've got the whole Love Hurts campaign. So now there's that addition. That was a very cool thing to see. Very smart branding by Jordan and getting out there. And there were people taking all new pictures, because if you've been to Philadelphia, chances are you probably have a picture of the Love statue, and now you have the Love Hurts. Now, this is a picture that was also making the rounds, and it's one that apparently triggered some people online. That is a pig with a little football in its mouth, with the number 15, a chef's knife in the back. It's actually not a chef's knife. That actually looks like a bread knife. Doesn't matter. And it has a little tuft of hair here. Number 15. And so there are people going, I can't believe that Eagles fans, boy, those bastard Eagles fans, they booed Santa Claus. They threw batteries at J.D. Drew. They booed Michael Irvin when he was on the field. And now they've put in poor Patrick Mahomes. They've taken poor Patrick Mahomes and put his hair on a roasted pig. How offensive. Poor Patrick Mahomes. Stop it. Stop. I saw people tweeting this out, and there are a couple of those weird NFL aggregator accounts, and one of them said something like, there's no room in football for this. There's no place in football for this. There's no place in football for putting a little wig on a roasted pig with the number of the quarterback you just took down. There's no room for that in football. You know what? You're right. But there is room for it in Philadelphia. Now, in fairness, what I think most of us are, what we associate Patrick Mahomes with isn't a pig. It typically tends to be something a little bit different. There are some people who may or may not have pointed out the fact that there's a character that Patrick Mahomes sounds a lot like. And there was an image going around on Twitter of poor Kermit the Frog. And it was a little bit graphic. I thought to myself, I don't know, do I show it on the show? And I'm still not sure if I want to go there yet, because there were some Kermit the Frog things going on at the immediate celebration. But well, there are a couple. Here you go. Here's one. They had Patrick Mahomes. Oh, sorry, Kermit the Frog in a Chiefs jersey with the hair. Kind of maybe not the best one. Maybe not the one that you get super hyped about. This is the one. This is the one that I saw. There was a fan, and it's kind of hard to see here, but he had a Kermit the Frog. He was hanging a Kermit the Frog on a light pole. Honestly, kind of impressive. Once again, the ability of Eagles fans to climb light poles. But Kermit the Frog, Patrick Mahomes, it is so sad to see Kermit the Frog hanging there on a light pole, having to think about Patrick Mahomes coming up small in the Super Bowl. It's not easy being green, unless you're the Philadelphia Eagles. Then being green is very easy. And in fact, it makes you a world champion. So we had that. There's a funeral home, by the way. In case you didn't see this, there was a funeral home that I said, stop, they're already dead. But we did have this. There was a funeral home that put out a RIP Chiefs banner for the parade. This place was insane. The city of Philadelphia was absolutely unhinged. And then we got to a moment that a lot of people were wondering. You know, Chris Long had said on his podcast that he got a text around midnight, I think right after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. And it was somebody asking if he could wear Chris Long's fur coat, that iconic fur coat that Chris Long wore after Super Bowl 52 to the parade. I thought it was going to be Jordan Mailata, and then it was said that this might have been a guy that Chris Long played with. Chris Long said it's a guy that he loved. And I was like, oh, it's probably Brandon Graham. Nay. It was Josh Sweat. And he pulled that very long fur coat very well. Looks good on Josh Sweat. I can't tell. Is he holding a Starry? I don't know a lot of people who go out of their way to drink Starry, but it looks like Josh Sweat was having himself a little lemon lime, a little citrusy drink. Now, I did put a poll out over on Twitter asking who is going to have the best speech of the day, which we're going to get to some of the speeches here in a minute, but 49% said Brandon Graham, 29.4% said CJGJ, 7.8% said Saquon Barkley, 13.7% said other. There's a person who responded there, Jalen Hurts. I thought it was going to be Jordan Mailata. Mailata had a good little speech. It wasn't anything too crazy. Oh, but there was another image that broke the internet before the parade even got started. CJGJ continues his war against the Swifties, which we detailed on the show earlier this week. But CJGJ goes to the parade wearing a shirt that, well, the guy who does the Russ Joy Show store, shop.therussjoyshow.com, where you can go get your Decimation of a Dynasty shirt. He said, hey, Russ, what if we... And there's the link. It's also in the description of the episode. Said, hey, Russ, what if we put this design up? And this is one of those times where I had to look money right in the eye and say, no. But CJGJ can make money on this. And I'm sure like T-Public and T-Chip and all of the other ones that just, lift other people's designs and sell them en masse on very poorly done shirts. They'll probably put this out. But in case you can't read things backwards, the shirt says, Swifties can licks, L-I-X, Super Bowl 59, my balls. Oh boy. As you can imagine, this did not go over very well with the Swifties. I'm sure this comes as a surprise, but the Swifties aren't happy that they're still getting trolled by CJGJ. I don't know if he's going to get doxxed, but I fully expect the Swifties are not going to let this one go, because they are also insane. Now, while the parade was going on, and we're going to kind of bounce all around. Oh, I found the image I was looking for before. This was the image that was going around. A guy climbed up on top of a light at the Eagles parade and had a Kermit the Frog. Maybe not the thing I'd go for, but to that guy, okay. So there was Kermit the Frog, Patrick Mahomes. Oh, we'll see if Patrick is able to get back.